Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Gary.
Good to have you. Well, man, you've got to, you've been through a spring now. Now you're into fall camp. I know it's feeling like it's real because it is. You open up a week from Friday night. Wow, it's here in a hurry against Paul Bryant. The challenges of taking over a team that went 0-10 last year, but has a really good football history. How's everything going, and what do you think of your football team so far?
Yeah, Gary, it's going great. I mean, we have great young men here, and we had a wonderful spring training, and as often happens, spring training, your numbers balloon a little bit. I think there's excitement about football. I think our kids have they want to go out and prove themselves, and that kind of showed this summer. We had a great summer. We put them in some really stiff competition and tested them, and we had to respond to some adversity, and I think our kids are learning to do that, which, quite frankly, is something that most high school teams have to, but we certainly thought was important for us, and that led right into fall camp, and there's been some excitement, and our kids are bouncing around in this heat, and it's really an exciting time here. It's getting here too quick in one sense, but in another sense, it can't get here quick enough. We're excited to go out on August 19th and compete against Paul Bryant, who we know is one of the elite teams in the state of Alabama.
Coach, I'm curious because I've had coaches tell me before, man, when you take over a program, you got to come in tough. You got to come in hard because you can always loosen the reins a little bit, but if you come in soft, it's hard to toughen back up. But I'm curious about when you take over a team that didn't win a game. They're probably beat down a little bit. Their self-esteem, their confidence is a little bit low. And this may be the first time you've ever come into a situation like this where you're inheriting a team that's 0-10. Because they didn't win a game, is the approach different for you maybe than when you took over at McGill-Tulane or when you were the defensive coordinator at Spain Park? Is it a different approach because the team didn't win a game last year, or is it the same regardless of whether they win 0 games or win 10 games?
I don't think so. I think you have a blueprint, and we certainly have kind of taken a blueprint with us from Prattville to Daphne to McGill-Tulane to Spain Park, and obviously there's that blueprint. It grows at times. We certainly have taken some things from Coach Rainey's blueprint at Spain Park and added it to our blueprint, but we feel like the formula for success is very simple. It's how we work and being consistently, on a daily basis, we have to outwork everyone around us. We're a blue-collar community here. Our kids are raised, by families that know how to work, and that's those traits you'll find in most cities and towns in the state of Alabama. It's just demanding that every day the young men come and give you their best effort. That's basically what our program is going to be built on is effort. And these kids have done a great job with that. Have we increased the workload? I think we have. And I think our kids would tell you that, but I also think that they understand how much it's creating an environment for them to improve on a daily basis, and I think they're beginning to see that. So, so from that standpoint, I don't think we know another way to do it. I think our way has kind of been proven, and that's not to say there aren't other ways that work, because I'm sure there are. But it's it's those things that we learned from Bill Clark and Glenn Vickery and Sean Rainey, and we just take those things and go to work every day and put those things in, and hopefully the results will take care of themselves.
Visiting with first-year Tuscaloosa County High head football coach Bart Sessions. All Coach Sessions did in 3 years as the head coach at McGill-Tulane from 2011 to 2013 was go 34-5. Last couple of years as the defensive coordinator at Spain Park. Spain Park played for the Class 7A state championship last year against McGill in a very competitive ball game that McGill won. I don't know how I feel about Class 7A, Coach. I'll be honest with you. I'm still kind of wrapping my arms around it that we've got an extra classification with only 32 teams. But regardless, that's where you're at. You were in it last year at Spain Park, And unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it, this Class 7A Region 3 that you're in has some of the most powerful football programs in the state to compete against. Hoover, Spain Park, Vestavia, it goes on and on. The challenge of being in a region like that. Now, granted, if you win that region or you go to the playoffs out of that region, you know you can compete with anybody in the state. But what's the challenge like for County High having to compete week in and week out against those teams?
Firstly, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I think the creation of 7A has probably watered some classifications down. You see some playoff teams that in years past would definitely not be playoff teams. You see some people make it deep into the playoffs that if there were still 6 classes probably would not, and that's across the board in all classes. But you certainly hit the nail on the head when you look at, regardless of whether we were 7A or 6A, you're essentially talking about the same region. That over the mountain group in Birmingham that's always dominated the northern part of the state and for the most part the entire state. So we understand what we're up against, and we know that that our region is we're the cream of the crop in our state. When you talk about the top region, and there's really no argument for that. The 7A region that we play in has shown year in, year out to be the best region in the state of Alabama. To us, that fits right in with what we're trying to promote anyway. It's about working every day. It's about respecting every opponent. It's about putting your best effort and seeing how good we can be. We can't control how good Hoover is. We can't control how good Spain Park is or Vestavia. We can control how we come to work every day, type of effort we put in. And that's what we talk to our kids about. It's not about those other people we play. It's let's be the best Tuscaloosa County we can be, and then we'll let the chips fall where they may.
One thing I'm really excited about is your schedule outside of your region, because you move up to 7A, but as a sportscaster, it's awesome that you're still getting to play your traditional rivals, Paul Bryant, Northridge, and Hillcrest. How important is it to keep those schools on the schedule, for, if nothing else, for the community, for West Alabama, for the fans? I mean, those are really important football games.
I told someone the other day, that we probably have the toughest schedule in the state of Alabama. We play in the toughest region, and then you throw in Paul Bryant, who was a wonderful program to begin with, and through some reclassification, some restructuring in the city, picked up probably 30 more players from Northridge. So clearly they're going to be one of the top teams in the state of Alabama. You look at a Hillcrest, who was already a great program, and they've picked up probably a dozen kids from around the city this summer that are going to help their program. So those two are clearly two of the best. You talk about Northridge, and that's the team that a lot of people are probably overlooking. I can assure you we are not. We understand the type of man Mike Vickery is, the type of program he's going to run, the things that he's implementing over there. And Northridge has a tradition of having great football. So you put those two together, they're going to be a very tough opponent. It's exciting for us because we feel like we'll get to play in front of great crowds. I think it's exciting for all the fan bases to have these local rival games. And, we can't wait. We start off back-to-back, Paul Bryant, Northridge, and it should be a wonderful 2 weeks of football.
Yeah, your history with the Vickery family, and I know you're going to be competing, but you're not in the same region, not even in the same classification, 7A and 6A. Have you and Mike at all talked about facing off against each other in that second week, or is that something that with both of you preparing your football teams you haven't had time to fool with?
Mike and I talk on a weekly basis, and basically have for years now, and that's certainly not going to change. I'm sure that week, the conversations will be more about our families and those kind of things instead of football. But he knows, that we're here to help him any way we can, except for that 1 week of the year, and he certainly feels the same way for us. It's going to be a great night, because anytime you can get family and friends together, even if you're competing against one another, that's kind of how he and I were both raised. You know, you go out and compete regardless of who it's against. You know, if I was coaching against my dad during that game, you know, I'd want to whip his rear end, and he would want to mine. And Mike's much the same way. Now, before the game and after the game, we're going to be the best of friends, and our families are very close, so it's going to be a great night for us personally. And I think it's going to it will be our home opener. I think it'll be a great night for our programs as a whole to have those two teams that are, you know, right across the street from each other playing a game here at our stadium.
Wrapping up with Tuscaloosa County High head football coach Bart Sessions, I'm going to throw a word out at you that I know coaches hate, but expectations. I mean, what are reasonable expectations? I mean, I know you're instilling your program. You're trying to instill the work ethic and start from, you know, the first rung and build. But do you even talk about the playoffs? I mean, what do you think is a reasonable goal for this football team, County High, in your first season coming off an 0-10 campaign?
You know, Gary, we never talk about two things. You know, we last year was last year, and we never talk about the playoffs until the playoffs get here. You know, we're talking about Paul Bryant, and we know what we're up against, and we know what kind of football team they're going to have. And you know, our expectations are simple. I don't know how to coach a football game that we don't expect to win, and our staff is that way. I mean, we want our kids to have that mindset. We don't want to go in saying this is so and so, and they're the predominant state power, and we're not supposed to win. We're County High. We are supposed to win. And we're a 7A school, and we have great kids here. We have a great community here. We expect to win every game we play. And quite frankly, you know, people talk about expectations and pressures, and all of that is internal in our program. No one has greater expectations than Bart Sessions and our coaching staff, and that's where our pressure comes from, is the pressure we apply on ourselves, is we want to go out and compete, and we expect to win every game, and that's how we're going to approach it.
You mentioned the community. How has the reception been? How excited are your people there and the students about this new season of County High football?
You know, it's been nothing but wonderful support. You know, the community, there's a sense of excitement, and you know, I know they're excited for August 19 to get here to pack that stadium and to you know, to see their Wildcats play. And you know, we talked to our kids about that. You know, this is a community where, you know, your father probably played here, your uncles, and you know, and they're going to be in the stands, and we're also representing them. You know, and that's very important to us, is to properly represent people. We want to play the game the right way. We want to play with great effort. We want to play with class, and we want to be something that this community can be very proud of.
Finally, Coach, you open up on the 19th, as we mentioned, at Bryant. A lot of teams that open on the 19th are taking a bye week. You're playing straight through 10 weeks. Your final game will be on October 21st. Of course, if you get into the playoffs, then you'll have a bye week. But talk about that. Is that just the way it worked out, not taking a bye week and playing 10 straight weeks? What was the thought process behind that?
You know, the thought process behind that would be something you'd have to ask Lee Gibson about.
Okay, because that was done when you got
here.
The
schedule was scheduled when I arrived, and you know, it's that's one of those things that you know, I'm sure there's some things I probably would have tweaked on it, but we're not gonna really worry about that. We have a schedule. We're excited about it because of who's on the schedule and the opportunities that it gives us to go out and play a quality opponent every week. You know, we'd love to have a fifth home game, but we don't. And so we're going to play 4 home games, and we're really going to go out and, you know, I hadn't talked to the kids an entire bunch about the whole schedule. We just talked a lot about playing Bryant High School and the opportunity that's there in front of us playing them.